Hi, this is Brian Kim. I'm going to share with you another case of an iStent Inject W. And in this case, I'm going to show you how to more easily maximize the space between the first and second iStent. We all know that you have to hit different collector channels to get maximum IOP reduction. And so it makes sense to be able to maximize the space between the two stents. If you don't maximize the space, then you won't achieve the maximal IOP reduction. And so this is the patient's eye here. You can see the cataract surgery has been performed. The eye has been rotated away from me. I'm injecting some more cohesive viscoelastic to fill the anterior chamber and open up the angle. I put a dollop on the surface as well. My technician put a dollop on the gonio lens as well. So this is the iStent Inject sleeve. I'm going to place the device into the eye first, and then I'm placing the gonio lens on top. So pearl number one is obvious. You want to place the first stent far to the left as possible without causing any corneal stria by making sure you have a perpendicular approach to the trabecular meshwork and you're able to have a very good placement of the first stent. I went ahead and retracted the sleeve, and now you can see the window very nicely with the trocar in the middle. I'm going to dimple, making sure that the trocar is central and not abutting the walls of the shaft, and then fire, and then very carefully withdraw straight back. By doing that, it minimizes the chances of dislodging the device. So just as an exercise, I'm trying to rotate myself in order to place the second stent without coming out. And you can see here, I'm having quite a bit of trouble. And so my first pearl is go ahead and pull the sleeves down, remove the device, and rotate the microscope as well as your chair. And so that's what you're seeing me doing here. I'm rotating the microscope so it's pointed more towards the right, and then I'm turning my chair towards the left as well. And so I'm going to show you from an external point of view what I'm doing. So I'm going ahead and fire the first device. And then again here, I'm trying to move. You see me trying to shimmy my chair and move my hands a little bit. It's a little bit tricky to do it that way without coming out. So I go ahead and push the sleeve down, come out. I rotate the microscope, rotating it clockwise so it points towards the right, and I shimmy my chair over towards the left. So I put some more cohesive viscoelastic and then go back in with the device. And so this is a key. The reason why people have trouble getting wide separation between the first and second stent is because they try to make a translational movement of the device. And so you can see if you just try to just slide the device over towards the right, thinking you're going to create more space between the first and second stent, the problem is you're going to abut against the right edge of the incision. So again, when you're trying to move the device over to the right, if you make a translational movement, meaning you're just shifting the entire device over to the right, the device will encounter the right side of the incision and you're going to be hitting a wall and it's going to cause corneal stria. You're going to be moving the eye as you're doing it. You're not going to have very good control and you're not going to be able to get a nice perpendicular approach towards the trabecular meshwork. So again, the key is not to have a translational movement, trying to get the shaft of the device towards the right side. You have to make it, instead of a translational movement, it needs to be a rotational movement. And so no different from capsulorhexis, where we have to pivot within the incision in order to do the maneuvers for capsulorhexis, we have to pivot within the incision, the device. And so if you rotate it slightly clockwise, you'll be able to get that tip more towards the right side of the angle, away from the first stent, without encountering and putting pressure on the incision. By not putting pressure on the incision, you won't have corneal stria. You won't be causing the whole eye to move as you're trying to get the device into position. By rotating it within the incision and not touching the incision, you'll be able to position the device in a more perpendicular approach to the trabecular meshwork. Once you're able to position it in a more perpendicular approach by rotating it within the incision, you do the dimple down technique, fire the device, and it goes in nicely. I'm going to show this in quarter speed just to emphasize the movement. You can see here I'm just very gently rotating the device clockwise within the incision. By doing it that way, the tip of the device is going to be rotated more towards the right, away from the first stent. This will allow me to get it away from the first stent as well as achieve a more perpendicular approach to the trabecular meshwork. I go ahead and dimple. As I'm dimpling, you can see the window very nicely. I can tell the trocar is definitely not being torqued in either direction. I fire the device and then carefully withdraw straight back, and you can see the iStent is in perfect position. I go ahead and rotate the scope back, so now I can visualize both stents, and now you can see that's pretty good spacing between the first and second stent. So the first pearl is to make sure that the first stent is placed as far to the left as possible while staying perpendicular to trabecular meshwork, having a nice view of the window, making sure the trocar is central when you fire the device. And then to approach the second stent, you want to make sure you come out. You want to rotate the microscope so it's pointed more towards the right. You want to shimmy your chair towards the left. Go back in. You want to rotate your hands in such a way that instead of a translational movement towards the right side of the trabecular meshwork, you're going to rotate within the incision. And by doing it that way, you're able to point the tip more towards the right, as well as pointing it in a more perpendicular orientation to trabecular meshwork. And hopefully by doing it this way, you'll achieve a much wider separation between the first and second stent, and thereby hitting more collector channels and thereby having better IOP reduction. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your attention.